the first part of this video regarding the motivation for the National Shankara Mission. You must have seen the first part of this video. Now, there is a lot of information about this motivation or the reasons we are doing this National Shankara Mission. And so there is a follow-up second video. But prior to going into the details of the second video, I wish to tell you about what I told you, at least summarize what I told you in the first video. First is that the Shankara Vijayas are marginal sources of history. They are a rough guide for understanding Shankara's life because we don't have any other information. And so, as a consequence of that, we know very little information about Shankara. To state it better, we know very little bit of reliable information about Shankara. And due to that, we have to go on a quest to explore, survey, and find the archaeological and Indological evidences which are on the ground and excavate at some key places using which we can construct a more reliable biography of Shankara. We also have to factor in the literary sources, which are the Shankara Vijayas, in coming up with that improved biography. Now, so the first thing that I told you in the last video was that the Shankara Vijayas are not reliable sources of information regarding Shankara. They are a rough guide. Second thing is that the discovery of Kalady was done under trying and very difficult circumstances by the Sringeri Acharyas, from what we can see. Okay? And I think that we have to certainly give them due credit for what they have done. In fact, I would say, go a step further and say that we are indebted to them for having pointed us in the right direction and opened the gates of Kalady. Subsequently, the Kanchi Matha also built a large structure on the MC Road in Kalady, again laying claim to Shankara's tradition at Kalady. Okay, and I think that we should have to thank our acharyas for actually laying claim to Kalady, and that they have essentially opened the gates of Kalady for us. Okay, the acharyas, this was most likely a spiritual quest to find the place of their Adi Guru, Bhagavad Pada Sri Adi Sankara. We cannot expect them to, we cannot burden them with, and we cannot sort of bother them with looking and finding the historical evidence. That is the job of the historians, the archaeologists, and the Indologists. And so, what I said in my previous video is that the time has come for us to repay the tremendous efforts taken by our acharyas and find all this ancient evidence which lies strewn around in and around Kalady and also near his maternal home in Veliyanad, where Melpadu Mana is, and offer this evidence as our sort of our Guru Kanika or our offering to the Acharya Sri Bhagavad Pada and also to the Shankara Parampara. See, for people who are devotees, for them this is a bigger quest, because you are going to look for the maternal home and the paternal home of Sri Shankara, who is considered an avatara or an incarnation of Ishvara himself. So, for the devotees, this should be a very big quest, because we are looking for the avatara sthala, we are looking for the place where he played, the place where he, accepted sannyasa, and all the associated temples which are, connected, the temples which are connected to both families, where his parents and he and his future, descendants, meaning the family's descendants, offered worship. So, coming back to it, I would say that two things. One is the Shankara Vijayas are unreliable. So, we have to go out and do surveys and explore and excavate, etc. Secondly, that Kalady, there is a lot of evidence in Kalady, ancient evidence in and around Kalady and in maternal home and, near his paternal home. And we have to gather all this evidence and provide this evidence to the central government and the state government to declare these places as nationally protected monuments. Now, I also told you a little bit about the quest for Kaladi, and that this was done in very difficult circumstances where there was no bridge, no communication, and no basically it was a very wooded, or can't call it forested, but an area which is difficult to access. There are sections of Kaladi which are even difficult to access today. So I can imagine how bad it was at the beginning of 1900. And so, in these difficult circumstances, Diwan Sheshadri Iyer, who was the representative of the Shringeri Matha, identified three Kaladis, provided the information back to the Acharyas, and they basically went through a process of elimination and came up and said that this place near Aluva or near Ernakulam is the Kaladi connected to Sri Adi Sankara. Now, as I said, I racked my brains to find out why would the Acharyas have concluded that Kaladi is the place associated with Shankara. That is, it is written about in the Shankara Vijaya, but as well you could assume that this Kaladi up here north near Malappuram and Palakkad, that could be the Kaladi. There are two other Kaladis as well, which are not put up on this map. It could be the one Kaladi near Tirunanthapuram. And basically, when I went through process of deduction, I realized that the three families, that is the paternal family, the Kaipilli Mana, lives in and around Kaladi, and the other two associated families, the Kapilli and Talayattumpilli Mana, live in Kaladi. And this must have given the Acharyas the clue that the living tradition of these families, along with their temples and also, their worship tradition, okay, that is, they have kept the tradition of Shankara alive. The paternal family, Kaipilli Mana, Kapilli Mana, and Talayattumpilli Mana, they have kept the tradition of Shankara alive. And so that must have given the vital clue when taken in light of what is written in the Madhivya Shankara Vijay. See, they could not have entirely trusted the words from Madhivya Shankara Vijay, so they must have relied on the legends, the temples, the worship practices, and the living tradition, which is these families, which are the descendants of Sri Bhagavat, meaning the family is the descendants of Sri Shankara. Right? So, using all this, the Acharyas must have deducted. Of course, there are, in this video, there's a video which says that there was a premonition as well. One of the Acharyas apparently felt the presence of Aryamba, etc. I mean, Acharyas will certainly feel these kind of things. They are certainly, most of the time spent in the metaphysical world. Therefore, we have to give respect and regard to their opinion from those kind of sources. Notwithstanding that, we still have not found the ancient evidence in and around Kalady and other places to get them designated as national monuments, and that is very painful, for me to see, to watch, and that is something that we have embarked on. So, as I told you, we have begun uncovering the evidence. The top three photographs represent the evidence from Veliyanad, which is basically Melpalur Mana, the maternal home of Sri Shankara. In the Nambudiri tradition, the firstborn is always born in the maternal home of there is a mother's house, and so in this case, as per the Kerala tradition and the Nambudiri tradition, Shankara was said to have been born in the Melpalur Mana, which is about 47 kilometers or so south of Kalady. And his Upanayanam also later on took place there as per local legends, and there is some list of certain local manuscripts which I have come across. There is a gist I have come across, and I have discovered sort of now sufficiently ancient structures and dilapidated temples, ancient images, etc. In and around Veliyanad. In Kaladi, I have begun my discovery process as well, and I have now realized that there are multiple temples associated with Shankara's paternal family, which is, the Kaipalli Mana. There are temples associated with the Kaipalli Mana. There are also temples associated with Shankara himself and his mother and father in and around the outskirts of Kaladi. So when you take this and the fact that there are other ruins and temples and vestiges, etc., which exist, which require exploration. I have not still been able to go deep into the thicket, into the woods, etc. Once we go in, we are told by the Kaipalli Mana family that there are many structures in there which we need to. It is really tempting that they are there. We have not yet been able to get the resources and people to actually go and find these ancient structures, which will help us very most certainly show that Kaladi and its environs are closely connected to Shankara from the ancient past, and then get them designated as, and after the excavation, get them designated as nationally protected monument. So I'm just trying to give you an idea of what the motivation is in some detail. Now, what do we actually hope to find? Okay. Now, let me tell you, in the case of the great Gautama Buddha, in the 1970s, the Archaeological Survey of India, led by Dr. K.M. Srivastava, excavated at Piprava and another place close to the border with Nepal. Now, this place is on the Indian, that is in Uttar Pradesh, it is on the Indian side, but it is close to the border. And there have been sort of amateur attempts in the past to excavate at Piprava, and Dr. Srivastava has gone through, very meticulous excavation. And believe it or not, what is just amazing is that they discovered, right, down below, right, they discovered, once they complete the excavation, they discovered the casket, an urn basically uh, uh, containing an urn or a casket containing the relics of the great Gautama Buddha. Isn't it really exciting? 1970s. Okay. The report and the book and all that was published much later. Paper was published in the 80s and early 80s. And the book, by the time the report came out, it was 1996. But it's a very, very old piece of work. Okay. And in addition to that, Dr. Srivastava found several seals, sealings or seals in the area which bore the word Kapilavastu. It also referred to the Gautama Buddha. There are several references to the Buddha, to Kapilavastu, etc. And using all these materials, and there was some what do you call? There was some pottery and some utensils also, which he found adjacent to this cask. Right? And that is how they discovered, the relics first. This was the first discovery. Now, what are we looking for? Obviously, in the case of sannyasis of Sanatana Dharma, we don't bury the caskets with the relics, etc. Right? But we certainly, I think, are close to finding the house, the original house of Bhagavad Pada Sri Shankara. And in that, I will just take from Dr. R.A.E. I should have put his name here, Dr. R.A.E. Coningham's sort of great work, which he did at Lumbini. So Dr. Coningham and a Nepalese team in Lumbini, in Nepal, this is, you see this photograph on the top, it shows basically these are devotees walking around the temple. Okay, this is the interior of the temple. So devotees are walking inside the temple and they are going to the place of worship, etc. But Dr. Coningham and team, they went into the center of the temple and excavated deep below and went down below what they call the Mauryan level, meaning that during the time of Ashoka and the Mauryas, that is around the 3rd century BC, this structure had already been, that is a precursor of this structure had already been in existence. Right? This is the temple to his mother Maya Devi. Okay, very, very interesting. Right? This is the temple to his mother Maya Devi. And this temple has been sort of in various forms, right? From the time of Ashoka, there is inscription and a pillar of Ashoka there. And then to the Gupta period, there are images of Maya Devi from the Gupta period in this temple, etc. And Coningham and company, imagine how broad-minded, how open the management here of this temple was in permitting them to excavate right in the middle of the temple, knowing very well that there are all these brick walls, okay, of various types, which go through, that is, at each level, you have brick walls from various centuries, right? So when you go down below, you finally find the Mauryan brickwork, that is 3rd century BC. Go down below that, and lo and behold, he found what he calls are the post holes. Post holes are basically, when you build a kutil or a hut or a primitive, hut or a structure like that, you essentially use wood or bamboo, right, to anchor it to the ground. You grout it and you anchor it. Apparently, the process involved taking the bamboo pole, searing it at the bottom with a flame, and then placing it, grouting it, you may not call it grouting it, but placing it into the ground and maybe covering it with soil, etc. Now, what was fortuitous for them was the fact that the searing had been done. They could lift up these post holes. The post holes are basically the remnants. Once this bamboo pole sort of rots and goes away, what you're left behind in the bottom is the outline or the remnants of this particular bamboo pole. So they lifted that, found the carbon below all these, what they call post holes. So they had gone way below, found these, you see these circular structures. These are the post holes, lifted them up, found the carbon, and they dated them. So again, pointing your attention, this is Maya Devi temple. This is now it has been renovated, made more modern, etc. Now, right? And within this temple, so this is the Ashoka pillar next to it. And within this temple is where they excavate. So nobody said, we will not permit you, we will not give you permission. Nobody said, this is a very pious religious place. There are thousands of devotees who come here, don't excavate. They said, please, the government of Nepal, the trustees who ran this, under funding from UNESCO, no less than UNESCO, funded this. They excavated and found those particular post holes. They dated it and they were able to establish that this is the original structure place where the Gautama Buddha was born. There are ancient images nearby which confirm the fact that, this is the ancient Maya Devi temple. There is brickwork going back centuries. There is an honorific, that is meaning that Ashoka left behind an inscription on a pillar saying that, he basically pays his respects to this place. So everything fell in place, and they discovered the original home. And this is the kind of thing that we hope to do in and around Kalady and in and around Villiyanad and other places. Structures in Kerala, the structures and homes, associated temples connected with Shankara. So, I mean, I just want to draw a parallel. I'm not saying that we will end up in the same situation, but here what we are told is that the temple at Kalady is essentially, this is the flame that is kept burning all the time next to the samadhi of Aryamba, mother of Sri Shankara. This is the outer view of the temple. This is one of the gateways that you see. What I'm saying is, seems like there is a parallel between what happened in the case of the Buddha and what we see in the case of Sri Shankara. Both of them somewhere close to where where their mothers were likely interned, right? The final resting place, if you will, of their mothers. So, as I said, we have started. I told you about this. We have started finding the ancient evidence in Velianad, also near Kalady, ruins, structures, and also in other places in Kerala. And that is our goal and motivation, to find the ancient house, which to the pious and to the devotees is the place of avatara of Ishvara, right? And for the gurus and the Shankara Parampara, they would probably view it as the place where their Adi Guru, right, the person who began their Parampara, where he actually was born, where he played, where he obtained sannyasa, where he did puja at the various temples nearby. So for them, it would be a very pious spot. For the devotees, it would be a pious spot. And for, you know, archaeologists or historians like me, it is, a remarkable discovery, because we essentially have found, where our Acharya, Bhagavad Pada, began his journey, that then led him to expound the Advaita philosophy and resuscitate Sanatana Dharma to bring it to the shape where it is. So for us, it is a very, very, very important place. Whether you look at it from the spiritual, historical, religious, any angle that you look at it, these places are going to be very important. And that is why we want to go about and do this particular National Shankara Mission and find the various artifacts and ultimately construct a museum and research center and place these materials there. So I hope I have finally answered the questions. People said, give us the clarifications. It was not, it was not a sarcastic, or it was not a, it was not something that was, where they were arguing. They just said, tell us why, what is it that you're really doing? We really are not able to understand why, what the motivation is, etc. So I tried my best to explain. If you still have further questions, do not hesitate to contact me. Those who wish to volunteer are welcome to volunteer. Those who wish to work with us full time, more than happy to have you join us. If you are a young archaeologist and this excites you, most welcome. If your student interns want to work with us, most welcome. If you are people from industry as well, you are most welcome to join us. And people who are retired, etc. And we'll talk about. I'll also give you some details about the voluntary positions soon. And in addition to that, those who wish to contribute, if they say, we don't want to do any work, but we have plenty of money, we don't know what to do with it, more than welcome to fund us and help us take this project forward. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much.